Hi there. In this Chrome tutorial, I'm going to show you how to set up your Photoshop files for custom edits. If you use this technique, it'll make editing much easier in the long run, and it will streamline how we all edit our files so that any editor can open any file and easily make changes. And in case you have revisions, you can always reopen the file and easily change things. So the first thing that I do is I copy the background and I duplicate the layer. That way you're not ever changing the original file. You're just, if you have to make any changes, you're just making them on a copy. And then the next thing that I always do, let's say in this image here, we need to remove the background. I create a clipping path by using the pen tool. And this part of the process is the longest part. It takes the most time, but once you do this, everything else is fast. So for the sake of making this video not too long, I'm going to do a really quick path. It's not going to be very neat. But when you're doing a clipping path, all the edges around the body and the clothing, you want to be pretty exact, or as close as possible to the lines. But the one area where you do not need to do that is the hair. For the hair, you just want to do a general, very quick path around, because we're going to work on the hair in a little bit, and I'll show you how to get the hair pretty realistic looking. So back here at the ribbon again, we're going more exact around the edges. So once you get this path all done, which I will be done in 1 second, you're going to close the path, and here you go, last line. Great. So now if we go over here next to the layers panel, we have a paths panel, and you see your clipping path right there, but it's not going to be saved. If you just leave it as a work path, when you close your file, you lose this path. So in order to save it permanently, you click over here and you hit save path, and path 1 is fine. Hit OK. And now that path is always there, even when you flatten this Photoshop file at the end and you create a JPEG, that path will still exist. Anyone who opens your Photoshop file or your JPEG will see this clipping path right here. So this is great because if I have to make any changes now, I can always come back to paths, and you hit Command on a Mac, you hit Command and click, and there's your outline right there. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to make a mask in this area, the background area that we've defined by Command-Shift-I, which inverses your selection. And now come over here, and I'm going to copy this file, and up in your file panel, you're going to edit, paste special, and paste into. And when you do that, Photoshop automatically creates, if you look over here, they create a mask for you. So this is the mask layer right here. And what's great about masks is, if you look here, you see that the edges aren't very, they're not very defined and they're not perfect yet. But masks are always editable. You can always go back and paint in or take away from a mask edge. So you do that by, you see how the background has a white color? So this is all white. If I want to add background, I grab the paintbrush, I make sure my paint is on white, and I just start painting in more background. And what's so great about this is if you go too far, you can always switch and then paint back in the figure. So having this mask It allows you to always come back to your Photoshop file and re-edit. And this is also great for hair. I always use the paintbrush with a blurry, you see you can have a sharp edge or a blurry edge on your brush. So you use the blurry paintbrush and come here on the white, and you can paint in, and it takes away that halo around the edges, and it really makes the hair look realistic. And you can make your brush smaller if you need to paint in, you know, and some people, on some hair types, there's some ringlets that you might want to paint in with a smaller brush. So yeah, there is the advantage of masks. So the last thing, as I'm just being a perfectionist here and painting this in, the last thing that you want to do is if there's any enhancements you want to make on the figure herself, instead of just going up here and making adjustments to, oh, I have to click on the actual layer. If I went here and I made adjustments, then those would be permanent and you can't undo them once you save the file and close it. But if you come over to the layers panel, you click on this little button right here, and we open an adjustment layer. What's great is, first of all, it automatically names it curves, and you can make your adjustments, and you can close that panel. And when you save this file, if you reopen it and you want to readjust the curves, you made them a little too dark or something, you click here and you see the work that you already did, and you see the curve that you made, and you can undo it and set it back the way that it was before. So this allows you to always be able to come back and re-edit your files. So we made a clipping path, we duplicated the layer, we made a clipping path, we made a mask, and we have an adjustment layer. And that is how every Photoshop file, when you're doing custom edits, if you set them up that way, then it's the fastest and best way to work on files. So once you do that, I suggest that you save a Photoshop file in a folder, and then you also, when you're done, you can flatten the image and save it as a JPEG, so that you have this is the JPEG that you're going to submit. You still have your Photoshop file that you can open if you need to do anything, and you still have your path. So great, that's it. Thanks for watching.